What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. So I saw an interview with Shane Mosely. Now, Shane Mosely in his interview, he spoke about Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford rematch. Now, what he was saying is that he thinks that Errol Spence is going to do better in the rematch. And he spoke about how when he lost to Winky Wright, he jumped right back in, which is true. And I spoke about that same thing. I used Shane Mosely as an example, and he also brought up like with Vernon Forrest that went back in. He lost both fights to both guys, but he did better in the rematch with both guys. Now he's saying that with Spence, it's more like I'm not rushing to jump back in there. I want to make sure that I'm properly prepared when I get back in there, which makes all the sense in the world. Now, that's Shane Mosley's assessment. We've heard absolutely nothing from Errol Spence in his camp, so we don't know what's happening. But that's what Shane is saying. And yeah, it makes no sense to jump back in there if nothing's changed, or you don't have you just basically are the same guy. You're gonna go in there and just tell yourself, I'm just gonna fight harder, but not smarter. And I understand what Shane is saying, and yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. But reading comments, people are always going to make a bunch of crazy ass comments, but people are speaking like this is coming from Errol Spence. And that's what I'm saying. We haven't heard anything. So we don't even know when or if this fight is actually going to happen. Because we hear 1 week that he exercised the rematch clause. Then you hear, oh, Terrence Crawford said he didn't exercise the rematch clause. Then you hear it's just back and forth. Here's the thing, though. Okay. And this is where people have to understand. The type of beating Errol Spence took in there, we don't know what that beating took out of him. And as far as the car accident, things happen in your life where you might not feel the effects of something right away after you heal from it, but maybe you get a certain age, then all of a sudden you start certain aches or pains, or you stiffen up a certain way, or you have to find different techniques to stretch, and just different things happen. Now, I don't know. And, I don't know what Errol Spence feels like physically. But the way he got beat up in that fight, he didn't show the ability to be able to do anything different. This is why when you hear me say, when we talk about levels, as you elevate, you start to really see really great fighters can make adjustments in the fight. Not, I have to lose first, then come back and rematch, and that happens as well. Okay, and that's still greatness. But the way Errol Spence got beat up, and that's why I say, how could somebody look at Anthony Joshua and think he's finished, even though you can see improvements in little increments? Whereas the way Errol got beat up, we've seen AJ getting dropped multiple times against Ruiz. Yeah. He even managed to drop Ruiz first. Okay. Errol Spence wasn't able to really land anything significant. And when he did land, it didn't do anything to Bud. So psychologically, this is what I'm looking at with Errol. It's the silence. It's the fact that there's no training videos. It's the fact that there's no energy coming from that side, even mentioning the fight. Where I'm saying, I don't know, because see, me being the kind of person I am, I'm not a talker, and I'm not the type of person that feel like I have to try to prove what I can do by telling you. I'm going to show you. So what I'm saying is, even just if you heard Errol Spence say, "Yeah, I got that hunger back. I'm where I need to be," and I'm not saying it just to say it. I'm talking like that's what it is. That confidence is there. I'm feeling it. Like you heard Anthony Joshua say that him being with Ben Davidson, and it just clicked what he's supposed to do, that he understands the assignment now. And you saw it in his performance. This is what I'm saying. You need to, and he didn't say that till after the fight about as far as it clicking, but what I'm saying is you've heard nothing from Errol Spence and his team. So that lets me know Errol Spence is not ready yet. So if this fight is to take place in 2024, 2025, I don't know what's going on. But I understand the logic. I agree with Shane's logic on that. But again, this is Shane saying this. You know, that's what I'm saying. This is not coming from Errol Spence and his team. So we don't know what's going to be different. If anything's going to be different. And if the fight is going to be at 147 again, it's going to be an uphill battle for Errol Spence. Even though his trainer Derek James said weight wasn't an issue for Errol Spence is the one saying, I definitely want to run it back, but at 154. What does that tell you? What it tells me is Derek James knows that Crawford and his team already said it, that if the fight's going to happen, it's going to happen at 147. So if you understand what I'm saying, if the weight is an issue, well, what is Errol Spence going to do? What kind of training is he going to do that's going to make him perform better at 147? You understand what I mean? So if Derek James sit here and say the weight was a problem, and I'm not saying that they need to lie about any of it, is because they definitely don't. They need to be straight up about it. But what I'm saying, for him to say that the weight isn't the problem, right? And Errol Spence is saying he want the fight, but at 154. Errol Spence isn't making excuses. What is obvious, the weight was a problem. But for Derek James, the fact that he was being asked that question, I guess he just felt more like, nah, let me just dismiss that right there and get that out the way. Because if the fight's gonna happen, and Team Crawford already have the say-so on what weight class, and they already stated that it's gonna be at 147, then what's the purpose for the rematch? You understand what I'm saying? Because technically, Errol's going to have to be different. And the fact that, Crawford already beat him, Crawford already has that confidence, I can do it again. You understand what I mean? So Spence already knows that coming forward, his typical style, trying to just throw bombs, that's not going to work on Crawford. So truthfully, y'all, I don't see the purpose for the rematch. I can understand Errol wanting to get his win back. But even though Errol Spence was a good fighter, okay, again, I have to say this in closing. He said out of his own mouth, I can jab and box and move and all that, but that's boring to me. Right? Which means it's just in his nature. Even if he's winning the fight easily, at some point, I'm going to try to knock you out. You understand what I mean? And when people criticize him because he didn't knock out Mikey Garcia and he boxed instead of brawled, that was just to show that he can box. But pretty much. And he won the fight easily. But at the end of the day, what does that fight really do? If it's not going to be for the titles. I mean, yeah, he'll be able to say, okay, I beat him at 154. He beat me at 147. So is it going to be a third fight? And if it is, then at what weight, right? So the fight's got to make sense. It can't just be because this one said this and this one said that. There's a rematch clause. Look, Charlo could have had a rematch clause. He could have exercised the rematch clause against Canelo. He didn't want to. He didn't want that work again. You understand what I'm saying? You can see that Canelo scared him. He felt something in the first round he didn't like and said, "Nah, fuck this." And you saw how the fight unfolded, right? So, as far as Spence goes, I think for Spence, this is the first time we've seen Spence quiet in a long, like we've never seen, you know what I mean, other than him being like going through the accident. Even when he had the accident, he wasn't off of a camera this long, and basically, if the focus is him training and really focusing on his training and not being caught up, it's not about media. I'm not talking about him doing interviews with people, and I mean, even just him doing his own thing in the gym with just his crew, his camp, and as that. I mean, we're hearing nothing. And really, I just feel like Spence, I think this loss definitely hurt him to the point where it discouraged him, probably made him doubt himself, question himself, definitely angry at the outcome because this was the biggest fight of his career. And this was the most, like, everything he did got him to this point for this undisputed fight. And I mean, he lost miserably. And that had to hurt. Like, he gave it his all, but he couldn't even compete. It wasn't even competitive. It didn't look like the two best in the division. It didn't like the two best. So I'm pretty sure that messed him up inside. And like, this is the thing psychologically, what I'm saying. We don't know where he is. So going by what Shane said, I agree with everything Shane said in that interview. But as far as if that's what's the situation with Spence, that's what we have to see. And I'm saying that because people hear one fighter say something and then they all are responding to the comments as if this is what, Errol Spence said. No. So we don't know what's going on. And then people get tired of hearing the same conversation over and over. And it gets to the point where they start to feel like, you know what? I don't even care if this fight happens again or not, That's the conclusion people come to. So, yeah, I mean, we know that he can crack. And even though he caught Spence with, a couple of good shots, not a lot. They didn't do anything. Doesn't mean he can't catch him and hurt him and knock him out. Doesn't mean he can't. But definitely momentum is on Crawford's side between the two of them. And, yeah, I mean, if Spence showed me something in that fight, you got to understand why I'm saying this too is because Spence has been fighting that way for so long. And that was only his first loss. And for him to look as bad as he looked in that fight, psychologically, it gets to a point, especially with punchers, okay? More so than boxers, because boxers depend on everything, their whole skill set. A puncher like Spence, when they get to that point, when they realize and they look, go, damn, I was hitting this motherfucker with everything, and damn. And remember, this was a guy that was saying Terence Crawford was too light in ass, right? He's too small. You see what I'm saying? So psychologically, what the fuck? I hit him with everything. I did this, I tried that, nothing was working. And Crawford looked comfortable in it. He didn't look, you know how fighters, even Crawford didn't even have that look in his face like he's dialed in, he's trying, he just looked comfortable, like, damn, man, that's all you got? Like, this the super fight? This supposed to be Hearns and Ray Leonard? What are you doing? But you see the way it played out. Yeah, man, that was crazy. And I remember people were saying, yeah, I know you betting, right? And I said, nope. He's like, who you going for? I said, look, man, I like both of them as fighters. I want to see Errol win, but I'm not, I don't know. I said, nah, I don't know about this one, man. I said, nah, I ain't going to bet on this one. I said, nah, because I'm not that confident that Errol is gonna win. I said so. I said Errol gonna have to be different, and when I say different, he gonna have to be different. He gonna have to be sharp and accurate all night. And Errol is known to throw them wild haymakers, man, and tuck his, how he'll come in and do that little one feint and just drop his head and swing, and that shit come in slow motion when he does it that way. I said, and Crawford too sharp for that kind of shit, so I don't know. I'm just gonna have to wait and see this one. I'm not betting on this. And yeah, man, I knew people that bet anyway. And he was like, damn, man, I should have just set out on this one. Like, because, for the people that I knew that wanted Spence to win. That's why I said, man, I bet with this, not this. And I was not that confident that, Errol was going, they like, oh, he got this. He going to beat Bud. I felt like he could beat him, but it depends on his approach. You understand what I'm saying? So you see how that went. But yeah, people, they're talking about the rematch not making sense. They're talking about they think it's going to be worse this time. That's how bad Errol looked in that fight. And nobody expected that. Even if you thought Crawford was going to win, nobody expected that. Not that type of beating. Not that. The most I heard people say was that they felt like it would be a back and forth and that Crawford would be pretty much edging the rounds out, and as the fight went on, and he started to take over more to basically wind up ending the fight by winning by a unanimous decision. And a couple of people said they think maybe a late round stoppage, but as far as him just beating him down the way he did, hell no. But hey, that's why I say you never know what can happen in a fight. But even when you think you got a sure bet, things can happen. But anyway, we don't even know if that fight's gonna happen. But yeah, just to put some understanding on that situation, because like I said, man, you can listen to an interview, and I swear when you read the comments, they make you want to ask that person, did you watch the whole interview? Or did you just listen to 10 words and then make a comment? Because, But yeah, that's the story on that. I don't know what y'all think. Y'all think that fight is actually going to happen? 2024, 2025? You think it's ever going to happen? And I don't think that Errol Spence let me say this. That's definitely something I wanted to point out, was that the last time they both was in the ring was against each other. Ring rust won't have anything to do with anything. If Crawford's not going to fight anybody else except for Spence, then that means Crawford would have been out of the ring same amount of time as Errol Spence in terms of training and who's been doing what. Now, that will be the difference. So neither guy can go in there and say anything about ring rust. You understand? Nothing. And for Errol Spence to take a different fight, this is the problem with that. Well, could be a problem with that. I don't know for sure. If Errol Spence is damaged from that fight, he could take another fight and lose again. Then it's like, now what's the point, right? If he took another fight, right? Well, is it going to be against a guy that can switch up southpaw, orthodox, whatever? Is it going to be a top guy, right? And what would be the point? Because if he could take a fight, then so Crawford, right? Then what? What's the purpose? They don't need a stay busy fight, then fight each other. No. So how long this thing's gonna prolong until it actually happens? I don't know. So yeah, and that's the one thing I was looking at. So neither guy will be able to say, well, I had ring rust, or if they, whatever situation, because they've been out for the same amount of time. But tactically, y'all, if Spence don't change, it's going to be the same result, and it might be worse. I really can't call it on that, but I have not seen enough in Spence in that fight to even make me think that he can change. Maybe he can, maybe, but I don't see how fighting someone else is going to help him to beat Crawford. unless he fought another technically good boxer. But who? Right? Who? And there's only one Crawford. So anyway, talk to me in the comment section. What y'all think about the fight? What y'all think? Same result? Think Spence gonna do better and still lose, or you think he's gonna win? I think I pretty much know what the majority of the comments gonna be, but never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all on the next video.